This episode of Podsession is brought to you by topnaturalhealth.com, your go-to source for nature-based supplements, skincare, and anti-aging products. Visit their site for special promo code pricing on all of the products mentioned in this episode. Now here's your hosts.
You know how sometimes the story just grips everyone? The Gabby Petito case, that was definitely one of them. It just unfolded right there in the headlines on social media.
Oh, absolutely. A true crime story that really captivated the nation.
So today, that's exactly what we're doing, a deep dive into it.
Yeah. It started out looking like this aspirational van life journey, you know? Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie, young couple, seemingly happy.
Totally. Their social media, especially at the start, it painted this picture, this idyllic adventure.
Freedom, travel.
Remember that YouTube video they put out showing them converting the van, starting the trip?
Yeah, I do. Around August 19th, wasn't it?
I think so. It really captured that vibe. You know, Gabby into her art, yoga and veggies, working on a blog. Brian working at an organic juice bar before they left.
It seemed like this modern romance playing out on the road.
Exactly. But that initial picture, that wasn't the whole story, was it?
Not even close. And that's really our goal today, to just carefully walk through the facts, the timeline, what happened afterward.
Right. We want to really dissect it step by step, using all the information that came out later to get a clearer picture of the key events. It's a complex true crime narrative.
Because look, the media coverage was massive. Everyone was talking about it. Online sleuths got involved.
Oh, yeah.
So listeners probably feel like they know the story. But there are nuances, details in the timeline that are really crucial to understanding the whole thing.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the trip itself, around July 2nd, 2021.
Sounds right. They set off in their van, that converted Ford Transit, a 2012 model, I think.
Right. Planning this, 4-month cross-country trip?
Yeah, and like we said, documenting it, putting content out there, which really shaped how people saw them initially.
And that's how that image, the happy, carefree couple, really took hold. But then the first real signs started to emerge that things weren't quite so perfect.
Yes. And I think a really critical point, maybe the critical point early on, is that 911 call, Moab, Utah, August 12th.
Yeah. Someone called in, reported seeing Brian slapping Gabby.
That call it immediately puts a shadow over that whole carefree image they were projecting online.
Totally. And then we get the Bodycam footage from the police who responded.
Which is just such a stark contrast to the Instagram posts, isn't it?
It really is. One officer, Robbins, noted erratic driving, hitting a curb. And when they talked to Gabby and Brian separately, well, their stories started to show some cracks.
Yeah, and the underlying tensions really come through there. Gabby said they'd been fighting that morning, mentioned personal issues.
Right, and her OCD, feeling stressed about her blog.
And significantly feeling like Brian didn't believe in what she was doing. She even admitted, distracting him while he was driving.
And Brian, his side was different.
It was. He claimed he'd locked the van, walked away when she got upset about the blog.
And the scratches on his face. He said that was from her grabbing his phone.
Yeah, and that hitting the curb was because she grabbed the steering wheel.
It's just these conflicting accounts. You see it so often, these situations. Same event, totally different perspectives.
Exactly. And then Gabby talking to another officer. She said Brian had grabbed her face, but didn't hit her. But she also admitted hitting him in the arm.
To get him to stop telling her to calm down, right?
Yeah. So it paints this picture of, verbal fights escalating, physical contact happening with both sort of admitting some level of aggression.
It really does. And you see the officers kind of grappling with it on the body cam. They even discuss charging Gabby with domestic assault.
Right. But in the end, they decided against it. They chose to separate them for the night, got Brian a hotel room through a group called Seek Haven, I think.
Yeah, Seek Haven. And told them about a no-contact order, how to potentially get lifted later.
And that decision obviously came under intense scrutiny later on.
Hugely. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looking back with hindsight, the different response right then have changed anything.
It's impossible to know, but it certainly highlights just how difficult and high stakes these domestic dispute calls are for law enforcement.
And that Moab incident, it wasn't totally isolated, was it? There was another report later in August.
Yeah, a witness apparently saw them having a really heated argument at a restaurant in Wyoming.
So the conflict was ongoing, maybe escalating, definitely happening away from the curated social media feed.
Definitely. So we see this shift, right, from the online image to these documented conflicts. And the next really big stage is when Gabby stops communicating with her family.
That's the chilling part. The last time she actually spoke to them, verbally, was around August 25th. She was near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. And then that text message, August 30th, from her phone. But
the one saying, no service in Yosemite.
Yeah. And her mom immediately felt something was wrong, that Gabby hadn't sent it.
That's such a key detail. A really ominous feeling there.
And just, 2 days later? September 1st?
Brian Laundrie pulls up to his parents' house in Northport, Florida. Alone. In Gabby's van.
Just arriving alone like that. No Gabby.
Yeah.
And then the silence that followed.
Understandably set off huge alarms for Gabby's parents.
So on September 11th, they officially report her missing. And that's when the search really kicks into high gear, becomes this massive national story.
And Brian's behavior and his family's behavior, well, it just fueled the suspicion, didn't it?
Absolutely. September 15th, police name him a person of interest, but he refuses to talk.
Uh-huh. His family directs the police to their lawyer. That lack of cooperation, it just intensified everything.
Then his parents say they last saw him on, September 4th? Yeah. Claiming he went hiking in the Carlton Reserve.
Right, which then sparks another huge search effort, this time for Brian.
Meanwhile, the search for Gabby is it's enormous. Yeah. FBI, local police, volunteers, people online.
The public engagement was incredible, driven so much by social media, a really notable aspect of this case.
And then September 19th, the news everyone was dreading.
Yeah. Remains found in Wyoming, Bridger-Teton National Forest, near the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. Described as consistent with the description of Gabby.
Just awful.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, the confirmation. It was Gabby, and her death was ruled a homicide.
And piecing together how she ended up there, those eyewitness accounts from late August around Spread Creek become crucial.
Right, like the witness who saw their van parked there seemingly empty on August 27th, maybe the 28th too.
Yeah, suggesting the van was in that area right around the time her communication stopped.
And there was dash cam footage too, wasn't there, from the 27th?
Yeah.
Showing a van like theirs nearby.
Correct. Corroborating the location, another piece of the puzzle.
And then those accounts of Brian hitchhiking alone.
Very important. August 29th. A woman picks him up near Coulter Bay Village, said he got agitated, freaked out, she described it, when she said she was going to Jackson Hole.
And he asked to get out near Jackson Lake Dam.
Right, which seems like he was trying to maybe control where he was going, avoid certain areas.
Then another witness picks him up from that same spot, Jackson Lake Dam, later that day, August 29th again.
And drives him right to the entrance of the Spread Creek dispersed camping area.
The exact place where Gabby's body was later found. That sequence. It's incredibly significant in tracking Brian's movements after Gabby was last heard from.
And then, adding another layer, Brian's parents later told the FBI he called his mother on that same day, August 29th.
What did he say?
Apparently told her Gabby's gone and said he might need a lawyer.
Wow. August 29th. That's quite telling. Gives you a glimpse into maybe what Brian knew and potentially what his parents knew and when.
It certainly raises questions. So after Gabby's body is found, the focus obviously zeroes in completely on Brian Laundrie.
An arrest warrant is issued September 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't for murder at that point, was it?
No, it was for unauthorized use of Gabby's debit card, specifically between August 30th and September 1st, after she was likely already deceased.
Okay. And the FBI searched the Laundrie home as well, looking for DNA, other evidence.
And the search for Brian himself is now focused on those Florida nature reserves, Carlton Reserve, and Yakatchee Creek Environmental Park.
Which sounds like incredibly difficult terrain to search. Swampy, dense.
Very challenging. It went on for weeks.
Until October 20th.
Right. The FBI confirmed that partial human remains found in the Yakatchee Creek Park were Brian Laundrie's.
And his death was later ruled a suicide.
Yes. Self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Confirmed in late November.
And then, even later, came the news about the notebook.
Yes, January 2022. The FBI revealed that a notebook found near Brian's remains contained a written confession.
He admitted killing Gabby.
He did, but he claimed it was sort of a merciful act, said she fell, hurt herself badly.
Which sounds self-serving, to say the least. And experts disputed that account, right?
Widely disputed. It didn't really line up with the autopsy findings or other evidence. But it was his admission, his final version of events.
A disturbing answer, but one that still left so many questions. And just unimaginable pain for Gabby's family.
Absolutely. And the story didn't end there, of course. There were legal battles.
Gabby's parents filed that civil suit against the Laundries. alleging deceit causing emotional distress.
And notably, a judge allowed that case to move forward, denying the Laundrie's attempt to get it dismissed.
There was also the lawsuit against the Moab Police Department.
All right, a $50 million suit alleging negligence in how they handled that August domestic dispute call.
But that one was ultimately dismissed by a judge.
Correct. That lawsuit did not proceed.
Beyond the courts, though, this case had a huge societal ripple effect, didn't it? Especially around missing persons cases.
It really did. It brought massive attention to what's often called missing white woman syndrome.
Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. It's the observed disparity in media coverage and law enforcement response between cases involving missing young white women, like Gabby, compared to cases involving missing people from other demographics, particularly women of color and indigenous women.
So, Gabby's case got this intense global spotlight.
Right. While countless others disappear without nearly the same level of public awareness or resources dedicated to finding them. It's a stark imbalance.
And Gabby's family actually took action on that, didn't they?
They did. The Gabby Petito Foundation was established, and her father got involved with a TV series specifically aimed at raising awareness for missing persons cases from marginalized communities, trying to channel that attention toward others.
That's a really powerful legacy to try and build from such a tragedy.
It is. The case also, maybe inadvertently, shone a light on some potential downsides of the whole #van life thing.
How so?
Well, while it's often shown as this romantic, freeing lifestyle, the reality can be different. The isolation, the confined space.
Yeah.
If a relationship is already strained or abusive, that environment can make things much worse.
Yeah, I can see that. Away from usual support systems, potentially in remote areas.
Exactly. There were discussions around that time, even before Gabby's case exploded, about domestic abuse challenges within that community.
So wrapping this up, it's just such a profoundly tragic story. A journey that started with this veneer of adventure and happiness, but devolved into conflict, then disappearance, a desperate search, and finally the confirmation of Gabby's murder by Brian Laundrie, followed by his own suicide.
A terrible outcome. And the impact just keeps going. The legal fights, the heightened awareness about those disparities in missing persons coverage.
Right, and the conversations about domestic violence in these maybe less conventional living situations.
Those are all lasting echoes of Gabby Petito's story.
And I think reflecting on it, it just forces you to confront these complexities, right? That gap between the online persona and the harsh reality.
Yeah.
The actions and maybe inactions of everyone involved. And these bigger societal issues about media, representation, violence. It all got tangled up in this one case.
It really did. And it's worth remembering the work the Gabby Petito Foundation is doing and maybe just being more mindful about how these stories, these true crime narratives are told and consumed.
From all of us here at Podsession, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and don't forget to visit our sponsor, topnaturalhealth.com, for special promo code pricing on all of the products mentioned in this episode. See you next time.